Heidi ho everyone, my name's Mr. Fruit and welcome to Destiny 2. I've got some footage to share with you all from the gameplay reveal event and wanted to kick them all off by showing you all the new and updated subclasses coming to Destiny 2 that we've got hands-on time with so far. Some key things have changed about the subclasses and I want you all to get a grasp of what the classes can do now before I highlight PvP matches with each class. First off, the brand new Warlock subclass, Dawnblade. Dawnblade lets you summon fiery sword projectiles that you get to hurl at enemies on the ground or in the air. The thing to note about how subclasses work now is they're more simplified but also more playstyle oriented. You'll see here that there's now two what I call branches for your Dawnblade subclass. The first one being called the Attunement of Sky, and the other one is yet to be known since it wasn't unlocked in the builds we played. We have no official word, but it seems to be that you'll be able to choose one attunement or the other for your class, rather than both being active at the same time, especially since overviewing your subclass immediately informs you as to which attunement you're using, and each one has like a specific way your melee will play out, so you can't really have two unique melees. Each new subclass has separate attunements like this, and we're not sure whether there'll only be 2 attunements per subclass or if more will be added. It's an earlier build of what will eventually be the full release of Destiny 2, so it's hard to say if they're hiding some things from us or if there are in fact just 2 attunements. Each attunement has a cluster of skills to obtain and they all play towards a specific playstyle. The first attunement of Dawnblade has Phoenix Dive. Holding the default crouch button midair makes you quickly descend, regenerating a little bit of health as you perform this action, but mostly you look sick doing it, and that's all that matters. Skyfire makes it so while your super's active, activating the previous descend skill will cause an explosive blast where you land. Risen Angel is a reimagination of Angel of Light. It functions the same way, except that precision damage will extend your ability to hover and shoot. Lastly, you have Igniting Touch, a melee ability that ignites enemies, dealing damage over time and causes them to explode if the melee is fatal. The second attunement for Dawnblade starts with Wildfire. Now, since I wasn't able to play with this, I have to assume what they're describing. It says you engage your enemies mid-flight, allowing you to fire weapons and throw grenades while gliding. Now, it sounds very similar to the previous ability Risen Angel, except that it won't hold you in place in air. You'll continue upon your jumps, ascent, or descent regardless of your actions. Firestarter is your melee modification that gives you increased movement speed and reload speed for an unknown amount of time after landing a melee with this ability charged. Everlasting Flames is your typical super extension ability. Simply put, killing an enemy with your super increases its duration. And most notably, this attunement has Blazing Dash. Double pressing the default crouch button mid-air will perform a dodge. Sounds like an innate Twilight Garrison for the Warlocks, so consider me jealous. The other new addition to subclasses are their class abilities. You might have noticed that there's 3 icons instead of 2 where your abilities are listed, and that's because it includes the new class ability. For Dawnblade, the ability is centered around creating a well of light, and you get to choose whether or not that well increases health regen and provides a shield while in it, or if it empowers your attack power. It should be noted that your allies can benefit as well, since its state it affects those inside it, not just yourself. The grenades and jumps for every subclass seem standard from what we know, no major deviation here, although every jump seems to have a little less oomph, for lack of a better way to put it, at least for the Warlocks and Titans. So much so that skating doesn't seem to be a thing Titans can really pull off anymore. I know. Speaking of the Titan though, Striker has made its return, but with a facelift, and I really enjoy how they've tuned this subclass. The super has now evolved, for lack of a better word. You now activate Fist of Havoc the same way with an initial slam, although the slam is now a smaller radius. But now your super isn't done after your first smash. Your fists become supercharged, and you run around like an Energizer Bunny, allowing you to either slam additional times or shoulder smash some people. So far, every super seems to be a roaming super, so in its own way, this makes it feel both viable in PvP and PvE. The Striker's class ability allows you to create a barrier to protect you and your allies. You can either create a larger barrier to cover more area, or you can create a shorter barrier that you can crouch behind. The shorter barrier also instantly reloads your equipped weapons when you take cover. Your friends can also be behind these barriers and they won't, it'll protect them as well. It's to be seen how viable this is in PvP. The shield isn't incredibly healthy, and neither team can shoot through it. However, it's a theme I saw with the subclasses where it feels like they're truly trying to make every subclass feel like it could belong in PvP or PvE if you wanted to use it. Striker was never a notable PvE class, but giving some defensive options alongside an otherwise offensive super is a welcome addition. The grenades and jumps remain the same. The first attunement is Code of the Juggernaut. Reversal is a passive melee modification allowing immediate health regen after a kill, so transfusion with a new name, except it doesn't take up your melee ability as well. Knockout is an interesting ability. Breaking enemy shields increases your melee range, so your little T-Rex arms evolve for a small window, because it should be noted it now takes 3 melees from full health to kill somebody. I'm not sure if somebody who's shieldless will die from 1 melee, but if so, then it could cement Titans as a close quarter threat, doing what Warlocks like to do currently, where they land a body shot of some sort and follow it up with a long-range melee. Trample is another super extension ability, except what this does is it makes it feel much more viable in PvE. I was running a strike with it and clearing a few Vex with 1 smash, and it would refill it back to where it was previously, ultimately letting me just smash after smash after smash on this oncoming wave, and it felt oh so satisfying. Front Assault is your melee ability, whereas Reversal is a persistent effect granted to your melees. With this skill, a successful melee will grant you increased weapon stability. The second attunement starts with Aftermath. Fist of Havoc disorients enemies and leaves a damage-dealing field in its wake. We already have the same ability, except this also disorients enemies. I'm not sure how this works in PvP, because odds are, if your Fist of Havoc connects, they're probably already dead. And dying is pretty disorienting. Now, I'm sure several of you will be happy to know that Shoulder Charge is making a return, and it sounds like it works the same way. Magnitude is again another ability we already have, where it increases the duration of the Pulse and Lightning Grenade, as well as Aftermath. Lastly, we have Aerial Strike, causing the Fist of Havoc to deal more damage the longer you're in the air with it. It'll be interesting to see if there's no cap to the amount of time spent in the air, and how much damage you could try and squeeze out of it. The last subclass we got hands-on time with is another one we're familiar with from Destiny 1, Gunslinger. This super remains the same in that you call a flaming pistol that'll mess people up. Its class ability is the successor to Shade Step, evidently, allowing you to dodge the same way you would have with Shade Step. You can either make it so that dodging instantly reloads your equipped weapon, or that activating it while near enemies generates melee energy. The first attunement for Gunslinger is Way of the Outlaw. Chains of Woe make it so that precision kills increase weapon reload speed for you, a skill we've had in Destiny 1, except now this buff applies to nearby allies as well. Bombs for Bullseyes make it so that precision hits generate grenade energy. In other words, if you weren't already, make sure you're aiming for the head. Explosive Knife is a variation of the throwing knife, same principle, except once it makes contact with something it explodes, allowing for some AoE damage. Lastly, Six Shooter. This skill allows the golden gun to be fired quickly up to 6 times, but has a shorter duration. It makes it so that you can actually fan fire your golden gun now, but it should be noted that your super drains are fast with this upgrade. At least that's how it felt to me. The second attunement starts off with Gunslinger's Trance. Precision kills help reduce the cooldown of your golden gun. Knife Juggler lets you immediately recharge your throwing knife if the previous throwing knife was a precision kill. Crowd Pleaser appears to be one of the skills to try and make Gunslinger more PvE viable. Precision hits with your super generate orbs for allies. Note that it doesn't have to be kills, just hits. And then lastly, we have Line 'em Up. Precision hits with Golden Gun increase its damage and extend duration. So, building upon the last skill, the Golden Gun can now land precision shots, making it more reliable DPS in PvE. Don't worry about PvP though. Regardless of precision shots, it'll still one-shot. And that does it, ladies and gentlemen, for the overview on the 3 subclasses we got to play and how they're reworking subclasses to fit certain playstyles. Overall, it seems to be more simplified, and I'm interested to see if they're going to offer more attunements or not for these subclasses in the future. I'm glad that even though they brought back supers we're familiar with, they found a way to modify them to make them feel fresh and more relevant than ever. I also like the addition of class abilities and global cooldowns. If you haven't already heard, the abilities you have, being grenade, melee, and class ability, are no longer affected by intellect, discipline, and strength. They now have the same amount of cooldown as they will for everyone else all the time. Obviously, that's excluding the skills that specifically grant you bonus grenade or melee energy for performing certain actions. Now, armor still has stats that will affect how fast you are or how fast your health regenerates and stuff. I'm also curious about whether other subclasses are returning. If they're only going the route of one subclass per element, then does that mean the Ward of Dawn is gone forever? I'm all for becoming Captain America. but I will miss my bubble bros. With that said though, hopefully that sheds some light on what to expect with subclasses in Destiny 2, and also what to look out for with my upcoming videos featuring each class in PvP. Be sure to be on the lookout as I continue to upload more Destiny content from the event, and subscribe if you haven't already to get those notifications. Thank you very much for watching, have yourselves a fantastic day, I'll talk to you in the next one, farewell.